So, in the interest of current market conditions, I'm going to be doing a series of markups, like a bunch of markups on non-cyclical stocks. And they're going to be probably coming out a little more rapidly than my usual markups. But like I said, I'm going to focus specifically on non-cyclicals for a little while. And I'm going to throw something a little different in the mix with these as well. Uh, I always tell people that when you are choosing, whether it's something to trade in or whether it's something to invest in long term, you definitely have to consider um, what's going on in the economy, whether it's your domestic economy or global economy. Just be thinking about where we are in the stages of the business cycle. So big tech has had its turn, you know what I'm saying? So money naturally has been rotating to non-cyclical stocks. And so of course there are many cycles in the meantime, but right now, I'm just going to be focusing on these non-cyclical stocks. And I'm going to start off with applied industrial technologies. A lot of these I've never marked up before, but you'll find that some of them I have. But before we get into the content, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment if there's a ticker that you'd like for me to check out or some sort of subject that you want me to cover that is based around the markets and specifically price action. And please share. And if you haven't yet, be sure to go head on over to chartsandpriceaction.com and check out the latest course that I just dropped with By the Hood University. And that one focuses on a more deeper understanding of price action, as well as some practical tips with as far as psychology is concerned. Um, I really try to simplify um, trading psychology to make it to apply it in a way that anyone can apply it and understand it. So let's go ahead and talk about applied industrial technologies. All right, so of course we're looking at the yearly chart, and as you can see, it has a nice little bullish trajectory. So bullish over the life of this stock. And I'm just gonna draw a couple of trend lines, just to show some areas of interest for me. And you can see that the price has already hit its 52-week high and all-time high, it appears, at 111.68. And it kind of it has come down from there, and is sitting under or sitting beneath 2021's closing price. So that's an area that or that's a level um, that I tend to look at uh, on my yearly chart. I always want to see where the price is trading in relation to the previous year's close and or open. Um, just because it's important. But this notice that I drew two parallel trend lines there, and for me these two levels right now on the weekly chart, not weekly, on the yearly chart, represent some strong selling. So as you can see, these 4 years here, it kind of maintained that trend inside the trend lines, and then it sold off, and it didn't move back up into that area until 2018, where it sold off pretty strongly once again. So possibly we could possibly follow this same sort of pattern, where every time it hits a new all-time high inside of this area, it sells off pretty decently. It did it hit a new all-time high here inside that zone. The next year it sold off. Hit a new all-time high right at the lower side of that zone, and then it sold off for the next 2 years. And then it took 3 years to get back up inside that zone, hit a new all-time high, and sold off strongly that same year. And as you can see, 2021, uh, it actually moved above that zone, and closed right inside, right at the top of that trend line, the upper trend line. And so far, 2022 has been bearish for this company. So, like I said, I'm going to mark 2021's closing price, and I usually like to do that with a price level. So 2021's closing price was 102.71. So it's less than $1 off of that level. So gonna mark that level, make sure I have it right on there, 102.71, and I'm gonna keep it white. And then of course I'm gonna name it 2021 close. All right. So this is really the area that I'd be watching for this year to see if the price falls below this trend line, and then whether the price is able to cross above that trend line. So remember, I like to build scenarios based on different directions of price, and also based on potential consolidation. So another area to the downside. So far, the 52-week low is right at $80 and some change, I think. No, 93.98. Okay, so I'm gonna mark the midpoint between last year's open and close as a potential level to the downside, that I'd probably keep my eyes on. So I'm gonna just do a quick little calculation and we'll move on from there. All right, so 90.72.5. So just below the 52-week low, or the low of 2022. I'm sorry. So the 52-week low could definitely be something completely different than the 52-week low. So wanted to make sure I correct myself on that. All right, so 90.73 roughly is the midpoint of last year, and I'll mark that white as well because this is my weekly chart. All right, so midpoint. All right. So as far as the overall trend, like the main trend line, I'm not necessarily concerned with that at this time because the price is nowhere near that trend line quite yet. Um, but if I had to draw some more trend lines, I'd probably go with this one here, but I'm probably going to end up taking it off because, you know, I don't want to, for the purposes of this, my markups on YouTube, I like to try to keep my markups, my charts as clean as possible so they're easy to follow along. So, um, I would say based on this trend line here, where it's been supported at over the past 1, 2, 3 years, if it gets below the midpoint of 2021, then probably watch about the low 80s area on this one. So like I said, I'm just going to delete this one, and then I'm going to move on to the monthly chart. So we'll do a 10-year monthly chart. Actually, because I want to see some more, maybe do a 20-year monthly. All right, so you can see a lot better on this monthly chart where that supply zone has been. So you notice that it as I stated on the yearly chart, it tends to serve as pretty strong resistance for this stock. Um, Sellers usually come in, demand dries up up in this area, and the price um, sells off. Uh, we're looking to see if that same thing occurs here in the on the monthly chart. So far, the monthly this month, the month of May, has tested that lower trend line, but it hasn't broken it yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an alert at that lower trend line. All right, so got my note there. Um, and I'm good to go. I don't have to hawk this chart or anything like that. Um, Another thing that I'm seeing here potentially on this monthly chart is a what's called a rising wedge, and you can see on the monthly uh, where that resistance is. It's pretty much resisting right at right at the upper trend line of that specific pattern. So I'm going to distinguish between those two levels, those levels on the different time frames. So my monthly levels are going to be blue. There we go. So I'm expecting that this thing will reach some sort of resolution between now and August, somewhere in there. Um, so I'll definitely be watching this one over the next few months or so, just to see how things go. And I'm going to set a an alert here on this trend line just to the upside. All right, so beware bull trap. All right, so got a couple of levels set, both on the monthly chart. For this one, it wouldn't be something that I would look to day trade or anything like that. It would be something that I would definitely maybe do leaps or swing trades only. And of course, this isn't investment advice or anything like that. I'm just talking about what I would consider for this stock. I've never traded it in my life. As you can see, I've never marked it up before doing this video. But anyway, so we're looking at a rising wedge on the monthly chart that is very close to some resolution, whether it be a breakdown or a breakout. So you can see over the past several months, it's kind of started to consolidate, basically trading between about that $93 level and about 105. So be watching out for that. So got some confluence between that monthly level and that yearly level. So it may have a time trying to break down there, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm just gonna, kind of ignore this one until some sort of alert triggers, and at that point, I'll come back to this chart and uh, reevaluate and see what's going on. Weekly chart. Weekly chart, you can see it's clearly consolidating. Looks like it's possibly in phase one of the market cycle. It could be phase three as well, but we don't know until we get confirmation. So if the price breaks down at the levels that I drew on the higher time frames, then we've possibly getting a transition into phase four of the market cycle, which would be bearish. And at that point, of course, I'd be looking for the price to come down toward 90, maybe even lower. And then, of course, if the price breaks that monthly level to the upside, then it's transitioning into phase one of the market cycle. So we got a little mini cycle happening here, possibly, where phase four, phase one, phase two. and then back to phase three here. But again, like I said, we can't confirm it until we get a breakout or breakdown. So is there anything else that I'm really seeing here on the weekly chart? Not necessarily, but we have a range here, sort of a larger range after a nice move up. Um, and so, like I mentioned on the monthly time frame, where the price had been trading kind of between that 93 and 105 area. Well, on the weekly chart, it extends down a little bit down toward about 84. So I'm just going to mark that area. And I like to mark the upper and lower level of my ranges with a a trend line so that I can set alerts at those areas as well. And of course, I'll put a note in my alert to let me know, hey, this is a weekly level. But the alert itself, even without my notes, would tell me that, I drew this on the weekly chart. As you can see, preview weekly. So it's all based on the weekly chart. So below this level, all right. All right, so and then I usually do purple for my weekly level. So let me take care of that. So I've got my purple trend line there, and we draw another trend line across the top here. Make sure it's perfectly straight. There we go. All right, so we do purple. And since I already have an alert up there in that area, I'm not going to set another alert because it'll just clog my chart. So that's it. All right. So let's move on to the daily chart and see, what the daily chart's looking like. So I'm gonna look at the 1 year chart. And I want to see what the price looks like or where it is in relation to the 50 and the 200 specifically or mainly. And the blue line is my 50, and then the purple line is my 200. And you can see that the price is bouncing currently, or today it bounced at that 50-day moving average. So just a couple of levels to watch. Whether it falls below that 50 and possibly heads toward the 200, we don't know. But again, I'm more concerned with the more significant levels on the higher time frames. But another thing, one more thing that I want to look at before we get out of here on this video is I want to look at doing what I like to call an implied volatility study. So I like to look at the implied volatility of individual companies because unlike VIX, for individual companies, when the implied volatility is low, the premiums are cheaper. So I'm of the opinion that it's best to get into bullish positions on these companies when the implied volatility is low for that ticker. Not to be confused with VIX at all. But let's see let me look at the IV rank for this one. And I'm looking at my mobile phone right now. So it's kind of neutral right now toward the mid range. Um, and I can look at it and tell. But what I like to do on the implied volatility is I always do it on a 1 year, at least 1 year daily chart. And I mark support and resistance on these. And I don't necessarily do it the way that I do price action. I only want to see what like the overall range is for the implied volatility for that ticker. So for this one, I'm looking at roughly about 25%. And notice that when it gets down to that 25% level, it bounces. and that correlates with the price moving upward as well, generally speaking. Um, and then as far as the upside is concerned, I would say probably about 48, um, about 40 to 48 really is where this one starts to top out in terms of its implied volatility. So for me, if I were looking to, possibly swing a bullish trade on this one, I would want that implied volatility to be low, to the lower end of its range, and catch a position at that point and just give it some time as far as the expiration is concerned. Let's take a look at. I'm just glance back at the weekly chart. Yeah, yeah. And even more so, this thing dips down to about 14 on the implied volatility. It tends to have a pretty pretty good move. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Again, if you enjoyed this video, got something out of it, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend to come over and like, share, and subscribe. Trying to put out, content that you can use right and consume right at the moment and use in some sort of way. But I'll catch you guys in the next video.